Welcome, it is Mitch. I'm on YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel as we try to build this thing up. Packers training camp off and running in full swing. They had family night over the weekend. Wanted to talk today about sort of a blueprint being in place for one of the younger players on Green Bay's roster and how it could sort of help with the process of trying to snag a 53-man roster spot. And I kind of gave it away in the thumbnail. If you know the two players in the thumbnail, it is sort of the blueprint, and I think it's indirectly, but the blueprint that Carrington Valentine is sort of laying out there for Kalen King. And, the grind is never more real in the NFL than seeing a 7th-round pick try to climb the ladder. Maybe I'm embellishing a little bit, but I do believe when you talk about the grind and the grueling nature of the NFL, one of the things that first comes to mind for me is those late-round selections who, even as a rookie, like you celebrate being a 7th-round pick and then even a 6th-round pick, and then immediately you shift your attention to how can I try to earn a roster spot? How can I try to leave a mark on this franchise in the summer and training camp and preseason to make a roster, because you kind of ride a roller coaster of emotions from being drafted and hearing your name called to, okay, now the grind starts. And I'm not suggesting that if you're a 1st, 2nd, 3rd round pick that you rest on your laurels after being drafted. That's not what I'm saying at all. But certainly if you're a 1st, 2nd, 3rd round pick, like you're almost assuredly going to make the roster as a rookie, whereas the mindset's a bit different for those guys taken later on in the draft. And then, of course, the ones that are undrafted free agent scoop-ups in the draft in April and then May, of course, too. And I look at Carrington Valentine and a prospect coming out of Kentucky that, put a lot of good things on tape, but at times there was still meat left on the bone. But you liked some of the, when you take a guy in the 6th or 7th round, typically there's a couple of things that a front office and organization, it attracts them to that prospect, right? Like, we like, whether it's speed, size, at cornerback, like a ball hawk ability, or, ability to diagnose what's going on in front of them, man coverage, zone coverage, things of that nature. And Carrington Valentine was one of those prospects where, Green Bay, whatever it was, certainly liked a couple of traits, a couple of intangibles that he brought to the table. And so they scoop him up in the 7th round a couple years ago out of Kentucky. And Carrington Valentine had to work his way up the ladder. Now, his rookie season, he was awarded playing time due to injuries, primarily to Jair Alexander. And I would say Carrington Valentine was thrust into a role that was a bit premature even for him, but he took the role and he ran with it. And that was that as a rookie 7th-round pick, he started a large chunk of games. What was it? Played in all 17 games as a rookie and started in 12 of them as a 7th-round pick. In a division that is not lean on star wide receivers, even back when Valentine a few years ago was a rookie. And I just feel like he's laying a blueprint for Kalen King, who's another exciting prospect, was a 7th-round pick last year at cornerback out of Penn State. And Kalen King, I would say, similarly to Carrington Valentine, put some good things on tape in college, some things that, a front office looks at and they're like, we'd love to take a flyer on this guy in the 7th round. And the Packers were that team that took that flyer. Kalen King, I think, differs from Carrington Valentine in that in 2022, Kalen King put together a tape and a resume in that season in Happy Valley with the Nittany Lions playing in the Big Ten that almost unanimously, you look at what analysts, scouts, front office people, GMs, what they were saying about Kalen King back in 2022, and it was, this is a 1st or 2nd round talent. In 2023 was head-scratching. It just didn't go to plan for Kalen King. His draft stock plummeted. He ends up entering the draft, and he gets taken in the 7th round by Green Bay, but he at one time was like, holy crap, this is a 1st or 2nd round talent who falls to the 7th round. Carrington Valentine, I think at one point at Kentucky, was viewed as more than a 6th, 7th round pick, but I don't know if it was unanimous. I don't remember it being unanimous when I was reading his draft profile and what people were saying about him coming out or what they were saying about him after a couple years in college before he declared for the draft. Whereas with Kalen King, it was like, holy shit, like this is a 1st, 2nd round talent type of player. And then it just really took a tailspin and really took a nosedive in 2023 in Penn State. But the blueprint's there for Kalen King. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because I don't think it's a far-fetched idea to suggest that Kalen King, with what he's done so far in training camp, could earn a 53-man roster spot coming out of the summer as, we turn the calendar to September into the fall and look ahead to week 1 at some point against the Detroit Lions. There was a play on Family Night at Lambeau on Saturday night where Kalen King, I mean, he just made a tremendous play, a tremendous read on the ball, and it was like, man, that's a glimpse of 2022 Kalen King at Penn State, like one of the best cornerbacks in the country in college football. Malik Willis was lined up in the shotgun. He takes the snap. I don't know if it was an RPO or just play action, but he pulled it from the belly of the running back that was to his left, and Malik Willis kept his eyes left. And then he came back to his right towards wide receiver Julian Hicks. Hicks was running like a deep out toward the near sideline. And when Willis released the ball, and I mean, I think we all like what we see from Malik Willis, right? Like, he's one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL, and I have serious questions as to whether or not after this year, when Willis's contract is up, if he could compete for a starting job somewhere else in 2026. I think that's very possible for Malik Willis with what he's shown in Green Bay in a short amount of time last year and now this year. But Willis on this particular play on Family Night, pulls it from the belly of the back, looking left, comes back to his right, flings the seed to Julian Hicks, who's running it deep out toward the near sideline. But by the time he released it, like, Kalen King already made his move. Like, Kalen King had already made his jump towards the ball, and he bolted in front of Hicks, picked it off from Malik Willis, like right in front of the near sideline. And it was certainly a noteworthy play, an instinctual play, where it's like, even though he's in his second year in the NFL, he was a 7th-round pick last year, spent almost the entire season on the practice squad. And he's grinding. He's trying to earn a spot. And I think in some of those situations, you can see a player who's in the shoes of Kalen King maybe be more conservative or more risk-adverse. Like, they don't want to try to make too bold of a play and then get burned. Like, what happens if Kalen King jumps that too early and misses it, and then Hicks catches it on the near sideline and turns upfield and takes off running? All of a sudden, we're like, man, Kalen King made the right read. The timing was just way off. He wasn't there. He was there too early, too premature, and then it turned into a big play for the offense. I like Kalen King's mindset of just trusting his instincts, trusting really his playmaking ability. And I know it's just one play, and it's on Family Night. It's in a scrimmage between the offense and defense, but I do think it shines a light onto what Kalen King is putting together this summer. Matt LaFleur has talked about him stacking days, and I think if he can keep stacking days and really using Carrington Valentine's pathway towards playing time throughout his own career, because it is a similar situation. I'll say, like, Valentine from his rookie year as a 7th-round pick was on the active roster right from the jump, right? Like, he started 12 games, played 17 as a rookie, whereas Kalen King, 7th-round pick, cornerback, just like Valentine last year, spent almost the entire year on the practice squad, so that differs. But Carrington Valentine, like, you look at the cornerback depth chart entering this year, and Carrington Valentine is, and he only started 7 games last year, but saw plenty of playing time, and now Jair Alexander's out of the fold. And Valentine's undoubtedly in the top 3 of the cornerbacks on the roster, on the depth chart for Green Bay, along with Keyshawn Nixon and Nate Hobbs. But, like, he looks just as hungry as he did as a rookie, because we don't know what Green Bay is going to do. Is it going to be Hobbs and Nixon starting on the outside, and then Valentine's somewhat of a reserve, but really getting a lot of snaps anyways? Or will Nixon or Hobbs move to the slot, and then Valentine plays on the boundary? Because Valentine is really a boundary outside corner. He doesn't offer the versatility to play the slot, which is just fine. But, I mean, I'm watching Valentine in training camp and on Family Night. And this is a dude who's entering this week, collected 4 interceptions throughout the summer, including one on a beautiful play of his own on Family Night. And I'm hoping that Kalen King, and there's other guys too, right? Like Michael Robinson, 7th-round pick cornerback out of Tulane this April. You have Kamal Hadden, who was he a 6th-round pick by the Chiefs last year and then was waived, and the Packers picked him up, and he spent most of the year on the practice squad a year ago for the Packers before being elevated to the active roster for a couple of games late in the season. He's dealing with, I think it's a hip injury right now, so he's missing some of training camp. You got Bo Melton trying to make the transition from wide receiver to cornerback. They bring in Corey Ballantyne, who I should probably do another video on Corey Ballantyne, because I don't want to get too off track here, but I think if I split the cornerback room into tiers, this is just my own opinion. If I split the cornerback room into tiers, I would say it's Nixon, Hobbs, Valentine in that top tier. And then the second tier right now, I would put Corey Ballantyne by himself. He's a guy who played in Green Bay for 3 years. He offers you familiarity. He offers you a veteran presence. He offers you a proven track record. He offers you a guy who will be a reserve if he makes the roster, but he can be thrown into playing time on the field in the middle of a game, midweek if a player goes down. And he's not going to skip a beat. He's not going to be overwhelmed by the moment. If you remember, to link this back to Valentine, and then what I hope Kalen King takes a firm grasp on and runs with an opportunity. Valentine in his rookie season, I mentioned he started 12 games, and it was due to multiple injuries at cornerback. You're talking about Eric Stokes, Jair Alexander, so on and so forth. There was a point in time during that season, if you remember, where Green Bay's 2 starting corners for a long stretch of the season, not just like a little blip on the radar, but a long stretch of the season, were Carrington Valentine and Corey Ballantyne, who again was just released by Indianapolis last week and quickly signed by Green Bay on Monday. In that season, 2023, as a rookie where Valentine started 12 games, Corey Ballantyne started 6 as a reserve corner, and they held things down. Like the pass defense during that stretch, I went back, I was looking at numbers, I was looking at some PFF stuff. I mean, obviously you would have liked to have Jair on the field, but when they went to Valentine and Ballantyne as the 2 starters because of so many injuries at corner, things could have gone south. Was Valentine the most comfortable coming into a starter's role as a 7th-round pick as a rookie? Probably not, right? But they both took a firm hold on things, and I would say more than kept things afloat. Like the pass defense was all right when those 2 were the starters on the outside for Green Bay a couple seasons ago. And so you bring Ballantyne back, and I think there's a tier, like I said, with Nixon, Hobbs, and Valentine, and then I would put Ballantyne in his own tier because of everything he's offered already. There's familiarity, there's comfortability, veteran presence, track record, spent 3 years in Green Bay. You know what you get. Is that the best way to put it? You know what you're going to get with Corey Ballantyne, right? Then there's that tier where it's Kalen King, Kamal Hadden, Micah Robinson, Bo Melton. You want to throw Jonathan Baldwin in there, maybe, safety, corner, slot, hybrid. And then there's that tier where it's like, we don't know what we have in Kalen King. We don't know what we have in Kamal Hadden. We don't know what we have in Micah Robinson. Bo Melton trying to make the switch, and it's a daunting one going from wide receiver to cornerback in the NFL. Like, that's not easy. But that's that third tier where I don't know, you don't know, we don't know. Green Bay might not know right now how many corners they're going to keep on the final roster once the summer ends. But if it's 4, you have 3 for sure, right, with Nixon, Hobbs, and Valentine. And then right now, I would say that 4th. Like, to me, the Corey Ballantyne signing was not a signing that Green Bay made on Monday when they were looking around and they're like, well, Hobbs just had his knee cleaned up. He's probably going to miss the rest of camp and preseason, but he'll be ready for week 1. Kamal Hadden's been out for a little while. He's still out. We just need a body at cornerback. Oh, look, familiar face Corey Ballantyne. I don't think that's what was going on when Green Bay signed Ballantyne on Monday. I think they looked around and said, man, we could use a little more depth, some familiarity. He was in Hafley's system last year, too. So I think it's more than just adding a body to the cornerback room. I think if Green Bay keeps 4, it could very well be Nixon, Hobbs, Valentine, and Ballantyne. If they keep 5, then you bring in that third tier where it's like King, Hadden, Robinson, Melton, Baldwin, whoever else you want to throw into the mix because there's other names too. Or maybe Kalen King keeps shining, right? And Bo Melton really takes a hold of things. I think he had an interception. Was it from Willis? I'm pretty sure Bo Melton had an interception Wednesday at practice on a beautiful read, and maybe he's finding more comfortability too. Like, I don't think Corey Ballantyne's assured a roster spot by any stretch, but I think he probably feels pretty good about it, right? Based off who he is, and again, the resume that he has sort of speaks for itself. But if Kalen King keeps shining, I'm a little smitten on what he could end up being, just because, like, if you watched him in 2022 at Penn State when everyone was raving about him as one of the top cornerbacks that could have been in that class, and then you're seeing little glimpses of it in training camp, and he had wrist surgery earlier in the offseason. He stayed in Green Bay this summer to rehab, which I thought was pretty cool. And you have like Derek Ansley, the defensive passing game coordinator for Green Bay, saying, I think it was back in May, and he said, and I quote, "I don't want to speak too soon." This again is Derek Ansley, the defensive passing game coordinator for Green Bay. He said in May, "I don't want to speak too soon, knock on wood, but he," and he's talking about Kalen King, "is looking really, really good out there. He's playing inside and out. It's kind of like the light has gone off for him, and he looks more springy in his step." And then he said he's changed his body, his mind is at ease, and he's just jumped into this thing full speed ahead. He's been very impressive, And we've just got to continue to get that kind of day-to-day performance out of him. And it was later on, it was just like a couple weeks ago where Matt LaFleur was talking about Kalen King, one of those guys, looks good but has to stack days. And Carrington Valentine as a rookie was stacking days, like stacking consistent days where Green Bay, they were in a pinch when Carrington Valentine was a rookie, but they still trusted him enough to throw him out there as a starter for 12 games. That's right. Like that's way more than half the season. That's like 3/4 of the season. And they had to do it because of injuries, but they also felt comfortable enough to pivot to him instead of someone else, because it wasn't like Carrington Valentine was the only choice. He was one of the only choices, but they still went with it. But they did it because he was stacking days, because they trusted him to do that. If Kalen King can keep stacking days, if he can find that consistent play, I hope he scratches out a roster spot. And that's not me like poo-pooing what Robinson can do or Haddon or Bo Melton. I see it with Kalen King a little bit more. And I've only been to a few training camp practices, and I know it's only training camp, but you see what made Kalen King so special at Penn State just a couple years ago before that wacky 2023 season that, again, plummeted his draft stock and caused him to fall to the 7th round. So I don't know. I'll say the Valentine signing, too, like makes me feel more comfortable about what Green Bay's working with in the cornerback room. Like, You bring in Nate Hobbs, and to put it lightly, I'll look it up exactly. I think Nate Hobbs has played like 12 games each of the last 2 years. Like he's missed 5 games, so 10 games the last 2 seasons. Like you bring in Nate Hobbs, and where am I at here? 24. Yeah, he's missed 10 games the last 2 years, and he played 11 games in 2022. Nate Hobbs brings an edge to him that you love, and we've talked about it in a previous video with some of the friendly fire on Dontavian Wicks and then on Marshawn Lloyd. It's like, kind of need to hopefully tame that down a little bit. Save it for week 1 against Detroit. Save it for week 2 against the Commanders when they come to town. But Nate Hobbs brings a much-needed edge to the cornerback room, but he also brings about questions with his durability. And the reason I bring that up and tie it back to Kalen King and even a name like Carrington Valentine, who, again, he looks as hungry as he does as a rookie, which I'm giving him a compliment when I say that. Like, Carrington Valentine's not in a spot where he's like, hey, I'm one of the top 3 corners on this deep ender this year. Like, this is sweet. I can kick back and relax a little bit. Like, no, he's still grinding out there on the field, and I think Kalen King can use him as an example. Both are former 7th-round picks at cornerback who are trying to just carve out roles, carve out spots in different spots in their career, but both with the Packers. But you look at Nate Hobbs, and there's questions about his durability. Like, I hate saying this, right? It sucks, but it's the nature of the beast that is the NFL. Do any of you watching, by the way, please click the subscribe button. We're 2 away. We're at 198 subscribers. Like, if you're new to the channel, if you're new to the videos and you just came across this, it's not hurting you at all. It's not costing you anything. Just click the subscribe button. Trying to get to 200. We're at 198. Mitch, I am on YouTube. There's just no way I can convince myself, and it's impossible to predict anyways, that Green Bay is going to get through a full season this year from September into hopefully late January, early February, and Green Bay is going to be unscathed at the cornerback position. That Green Bay will run the gauntlet of a 17-game regular season, hopefully make the playoffs, enter the postseason, hopefully as NFC North champs, with Keyshawn Nixon, Nate Hobbs, and Carrington Valentine missing a combined 0 games. And so with the assumption that at some point in time, there's going to be an injury, or perhaps 2 at cornerback, who then do you call on? Well, you now bring in Corey Valentine. But again, that domino effect goes down to that 3rd tier that I mentioned, a Kamal Haddon, a Kalen King, a Micah Robinson, Bo Melton. And that's where I think there's an opportunity for someone like Kalen King, who, again, I'm not saying Bo Melton hasn't. I'm not saying Micah Robinson hasn't. Kamal Haddon's been, sidelined recently. And keep in mind, Micah Robinson was sidelined for earlier OTAs before training camp. And Bo Melton's still trying to get comfortable making this switch from wide receiver to cornerback. I just look at Kalen King as perhaps that guy who could claim the 4th or 5th spot at cornerback with what he's displayed this summer. And if he can keep using, and again, I don't know if it's directly happening, like Carrington Valentine talking to Kalen King about his own path and his own road to get to where he's at now with Green Bay, entering his 3rd, 4th year. But if Kalen King can use that as an example and say, man, if I can keep peeling back layers of the onion to my game, I could be in a spot in a couple of years with Carrington Valentine where it's like, man, that's a starting caliber cornerback in the NFL, and you feel very confident, very comfortable saying that about Carrington Valentine. So I hope it continues to come together for Kalen King. It's not all going to be easy. It's not going to be a walk in the park, whatever, lame, cheesy expression you want to use. But it's been a good summer so far for Kalen King. I loved the play on family night because I like Malik Willis, and I think Malik Willis has been really damn good in his role with the Packers. You talk about a guy who had to start week 2, week 3 after just being acquired in a trade late along in the process last summer for Green Bay for what was it, like a 7th-round pick or something like that. And Malik Willis, all of a sudden, a knee injury week 1 to Jordan Love, has to come in week 2 and start week 2 and week 3 against Indianapolis and Tennessee, and has to fill in second half in Jacksonville when Green Bay's down and Green Bay wins. Has to fill in when Jordan Love has an elbow injury week 18 against Chicago for a large chunk of that game. Malik Willis has really taken advantage of his own opportunities. And that play on family night, it was one that when I was watching, it just stuck out. It stuck out. It stood out, whatever I'm supposed to say there. With Willis looking left, faking to the back, coming back to his right, Hicks on a deep out, and King's just like, I know what's coming. He's going to him, jumps the route, makes a beautiful play and a beautiful interception. And it's one of those moments. It's another one of those moments. And if he can keep stacking moments and then turn those moments into days and stack up some days, I think he's got a decent shot to make the 53-man roster. There's a long way to go, but I think it's critical, and I just, maybe not critical, I think it helps that Kalen King can look towards someone on the roster at his position. It's not like Kalen King's looking at running back or wide receiver and seeing a fellow 7th-round pick, and he's like, I can use that to kind of compare, contrast, and use that as my own blueprint or motivation or whatever. He can look in the cornerback room at Carrington Valentine and say, man, that dude in a short amount of time has gone from, a 7th-round pick for Green Bay in 2023 to a starting level cornerback in the National Football League in just 2 years. And he's a guy who's really taken opportunities that he's been handed and ran with them. And so I hope Kalen King does the same. It would provide another level of stability in the cornerback room if Kalen King can become that for the Packers. Because, again, I don't think any of us are fooling ourselves. It's hard to imagine Green Bay goes through this season, or any team does, just unscathed at cornerback. Or, it's just, with Nate Hobbs' track record, it's just hard to envision that. And then he just had the knee cleaned up, right, or whatever it was. Was it a torn meniscus? But they described it as it getting cleaned up, I think is what the verbiage was. So we'll see, but I think there's a good blueprint out there for Kalen King, and he can just lean on that as he keeps trying to ascend on an upward trajectory and in the right direction for the Packers. I'm smitten on Kalen King and what he could bring to the Packers if he keeps going down this road. Let me know what you guys think. Please click the subscribe button. We're so close to 200. It is Mitch. I'm on YouTube. Always appreciative of all the support. We'll see you next time.